Michael had always been the kind of person who followed the rules. He went to school, got a job, paid his bills, and did everything society told him to do. People often said he was responsible, reliable, the kind of man who never let anyone down. But what no one ever asked him was this: was he happy? Every morning, Michael would wake up at 6. The alarm would ring, and he would drag himself out of bed, make a cup of coffee, put on his tie, and head out the door. He lived in a quiet neighborhood, where the streets were always clean, the lawns always trimmed, and the houses all looked the same. Safe, predictable. But on the inside, something didn't feel right. There was a weight in his chest that never seemed to lift. A dull ache he couldn't name. It wasn't sadness exactly. It was emptiness, a kind of silent longing that whispered through his soul like a forgotten melody. One afternoon, as he was cleaning out an old box in the attic, he found a dusty leather-bound notebook. He opened it and smiled. It was his childhood journal. On the first page, written in messy handwriting, were the words, "When I grow up, I want to travel the world and take pictures of everything beautiful." He turned the pages slowly, reading his younger self's dreams, adventures through forests, photos of wild animals, stories of mountains and oceans. Michael sat there for a long time, holding the book in his lap. The silence around him grew deeper. And that's when he heard it, not out loud, but in his heart. Is this the life you wanted? That single question struck him like lightning. He had been so busy being who everyone else needed him to be that he had never stopped to ask who he wanted to be. He realized something powerful in that moment. Your heart always speaks to you. Maybe not with words, but with feelings, with restlessness, with quiet longing. The problem is, most of us are too distracted, too afraid, or too busy to listen. Michael had ignored that inner voice for years, but it had never gone away. It had just grown quieter, waiting patiently for him to stop and finally pay attention. And now, sitting there with his childhood dreams in his hands, he listened. For the first time in years, he truly listened. He didn't make any sudden decisions that day, but something inside had shifted. A small light had turned on, and once you've seen that light, it's impossible to unsee it. In the days that followed, Michael began to think about those dreams more seriously. He remembered how much he had loved taking photographs as a teenager. He used to carry his camera everywhere, capturing moments, freezing emotions in time. It made him feel alive. But then life happened. Bills. Expectations. Doubt. He had put the camera down and picked up a briefcase instead. But dreams don't disappear. They don't die. They wait. Quietly. Silently. Like seeds under the soil, they wait for the moment you decide to water them again. Michael realized his dreams hadn't vanished. They had just been sleeping. He started small. He took out his old camera, dusted it off, and went to the park. He took pictures of trees, people, sunsets. He felt silly at first, like a beginner again. But with each click of the shutter, something inside him stirred. An old joy, a sense of purpose, a feeling of coming home to himself. But with joy came fear. What if he failed? What if people left? What if he left the security of his job and everything fell apart? The fear was loud. It came in waves. But another voice, softer and steadier, began to rise. But what if you don't try? That question haunted him more than the fear of failure ever could. What if he lived his whole life never knowing what could have been? What if he reached the end with regrets instead of memories? And so he chose courage, not because he wasn't afraid, but because his dream was worth the risk. He didn't quit everything overnight. He didn't sell his house or disappear into the mountains. No, Michael understood that real change comes in small steps. He kept his job, but he set aside 1 hour every evening for his photography. He woke up earlier on weekends to catch the sunrise and practice his craft. Some days were hard. Some days he doubted himself. But he kept going. Because progress doesn't always look like giant leaps. Sometimes it's just showing up for your dream a little more each day. One small step at a time. One decision at a time. One photo at a time. He began posting his pictures online. Slowly, people noticed. They commented, shared, and encouraged him. Some even asked to buy his prints. The thing that once felt like a childhood fantasy began to look like a real path forward. The more he leaned into his passion, the more he grew. Not just as a photographer, but as a person. He felt more alive, more present, more himself. And the strange thing was, everything else in life started to feel lighter too. Work didn't seem as draining. Relationships deepened. Even the quiet moments felt fuller. That's the thing about doing what you love. It spills into every part of your life. The truth Michael discovered was simple, but profound. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to take the next right step. And then the next one. When you act with courage, even in small ways, the universe starts to open doors you never knew were there. But it all starts with listening. Listening to that voice inside you. The one that's been there all along. So, to anyone who's ever felt stuck, who's ever asked, is this all there is? Is this all there is? Know this, you are not too old. It is not too late. And your dream has not expired. It's still there waiting for you to come back. Waiting for you to believe again. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to listen. Michael stood on the edge of a quiet hill one Saturday morning, the kind of morning where the sky felt endless and the air carried the smell of grass and hope. His camera hung around his neck, slightly worn but still faithful. Below him, the town stirred to life. Tiny cars, soft clouds of chimney smoke, birds chasing each other through the trees. He had woken up before the sun to capture the light, when it was still soft, golden, and honest. And as he clicked the shutter, it wasn't just about the photograph anymore. It was about what it meant. It meant he was doing something that mattered to him. He was doing something that made him feel. In those moments, when he was chasing light, crouched in fields, waiting for shadows to fall just right, Michael wasn't thinking about bills, or what he hadn't accomplished yet, or whether or not he'd made the right choices. He was just present. And he realized that this was passion, not something loud or dramatic, but something that made the world feel full again. It wasn't about being perfect or famous or impressive. It was about reconnecting with a part of himself he thought was gone. He met others who felt the same way. People who painted, who wrote, who played music late into the night. People who lit up when they spoke about what they loved. People who didn't have all the answers but had the courage to keep creating anyway. And with every person he met, Michael felt less alone. One evening, after an outdoor exhibit where a dozen of his photos were displayed, a young woman approached him. She looked nervous, holding a crumpled piece of paper in her hand. "I just wanted to thank you," she said softly. "Your pictures, they reminded me of home." I haven't felt that in a long time. Michael didn't know what to say. He just nodded, heartful. That's when it hit him. This wasn't just about photography anymore. It was about connection, about offering something to the world, something real, something that healed. His passion was no longer just for him. It was for others, too. And that meant something. It made every early morning, every late night, every moment of doubt worth it. But Michael also knew that if he wanted to keep growing, if he truly wanted to live a life that reflected who he was, he would need to make space for it. Not just in his heart, but in his daily life.